No flip-flops. I bet you're saving money on no using no heat today. It actually felt great when I was playing it. The sun out, it was a beautiful day. Everybody's back. I didn't have to do my countdown. Usually I do like a 10, 9. Well-disciplined crew here. Everybody had their potatoes this morning. That's good. All right, so I'm glad we're to slide 2 here on our objectives for today. So water on the fire, load up on the front end of the attack. Understanding black fire. Who knows what black fire is? Raise your hand. A few of you. We'll hit that pretty good. Understanding that we should be more worried, more concerned, have more of a pucker factor when you have thick black smoke rolling out the front door than if you had all fire blowing out. When you have fire, it's already released energy. It's like pulling up on a propane tank that's blowing propane, natural gas, and it's not burning. It's like, holy cow, you don't know how explosive it's going to be if it lights up. If it's burning, no big deal. Just protect exposures, cool the tank, and wait till we can control the fuel release. So understand black fire. Understand the door allows the upper explosive limit to drop that thick black smoke or black fire kind of rolling out, down to the doorknob, and that bottom part being that oxygen coming in. You're taking notes, do a little triangle. As basic as it is, the fire service is ignorant, lacks the true understanding of heat, fuel, and oxygen. Understanding that those three have to come together to create fire. And if we're going to extinguish fire, then we have to eliminate one of those, heat, fuel, and oxygen. We had a fire back in 1995, it was burning the boardwalk on Pensacola Beach. Hooters was fully involved. The water was up about 4 feet. You couldn't even find the hydrant without snorkeling or like going up to it, literally hooking into the hydrant underwater. We had Hurricane Opal was coming in. And we were unable to produce enough water to extinguish the Hooters restaurant that was burning the boardwalks on fire, so we literally cut a K-12 and cut a section of the boardwalk out so it wouldn't get to the rest of the buildings on the boardwalk. What did we remove there? The fuel. So just an example of that, that's something we have to understand is, removing the fuel, removing the oxygen, or removing the water. More times than not, on today's fires, we pull up and there's no visible fire and we just have smoke pushing from a private dwelling, it's oxygen limited. Fires today actually hyperventilate based on 2 things. One thing, which is what most of you would answer. Most of you are going to tell me, why do fires hyperventilate today when you pull up on a house fire? Because it's newer, it's got thermal paint windows, it's well insulated, it's a Yeti cooler, so the Yeti cooler will not let oxygen come in. The window won't self-vent to get oxygen. That's the pretty common understanding of most firefighters when we talk about it. The one that we don't talk about much of is the fact that that house could still be that 80-year-old house with single pane windows, not very insulated, could be that $10 cooler from the Family Dollar store, where a bag of ice in Florida won't even last 3 hours and it's going to be melted. It's the contents. So fires hyperventilate today are 2 things. One, which you kind of already do, building construction, newer, very well insulated, thermal painted windows, blown-in insulation. But 2 is the fuel packages, the live load, the contents. So you can take, and I'm going to show you pictures throughout today and tomorrow, but you can take fuel packages of today and put them in great-grandma's house that's 80 years old, and the fuel packages, when ignited, they burn so rapidly, so fast, that it's like somebody trying to run a 440 to win an Olympic gold medal, and they have asthma, or CHF. They just can't do it. They start out truly believing they can, and they're boom, and they just lock up. And that's the thing that we need to understand is we can have oxygen-limited fires that hyperventilate even in older neighborhoods from today's fuel packages. See, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, that wool cotton couch, those traditional Class A combustibles of yesterday, for lack of a better term, yesterday meaning decades ago, when they burned, they gave off 7,000 to 8,000 BTUs per pound. When they burned, it was that legacy furniture, and it took 30 minutes to flash over, and it was really never a very dramatic flashover. So when they burned at a rate where just about anybody, even somebody that had asthma, wanted to do a 440, but they're going to walk the 440. With me on that, you're just going to walk that race. You're going to take your time, get like on a city stroll. So you don't really need much oxygen. So you're doing that long journey, that marathon, and you're not on a time restraint. You're on 30 minutes to flash over. So with that, those fuel packages of yesterday in yesterday's buildings, since they burn slower, they didn't require as much oxygen. So that older wood frame house with single pane windows that were not very insulated, that they provided enough oxygen to sustain that walking pace. You with me on that? But then what we did was we took out that couch and the bed and we put in what? A new bed. And we took out the old grandma's love seat and we put in a big plush foam couch. We took out the old wooden furniture and we put in plastic furniture. We brought in a flat screen TV, but now it's still the same walls, same ceiling, same insulation, when that fire ignites, what is it? 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And so it's off to the races. And so before that single pane window could fail in that old mobile home or that old wood frame house, the fire becomes oxygen limited. And it just stalls out. In my earlier years going to fires, riding with my dad, into the 90s, early 90s as a firefighter, I can pretty much tell you any fire that we went to, if it was truly burning, or was at least a room of fire or more, we had visible fire on arrival. It was out one windows or more, like whether it was a mobile home, a house, or whatever. It is more and more common for me to go to a fire today, and whether it be an old house or a new house, pull up and there's no fire visible. Heavy smoke, but no fire. Their fire exists. It's just not visible, like the orange stuff. You just see the thick black fire, if you will. And that is what's more alarming to me than anything, because in the olden days when we pulled up and we saw fire, firefighters respect orange flame. A lot of firefighters truly do not respect thick, black, unburned fuel, fire gases, black fire. I see it all the time. Black smoke in the floor. What are firefighters doing without even opening the nozzle? What are they doing? Push it right into it. And say firefighters, I told them, hey, that was all natural gas down to the floor. What would they do? They'd be standing across the street, right? There's really not a big difference. Actually, the propane or the natural gas, I would rather be inside on it than the black fire. When the black fire lights off, it's hot, so it's already done to solid fuels. Preheated. If I was inside and I had my flash hood, is what they call it when they shoot at me, my flash hood on, my flaps up, my flaps down, helmet strap on, full bunker gear, and I was inside a natural gas leak were to light off. Could I survive the flash of the natural gas burning off in my full bunker gear? Yeah. What might get me would maybe be the collapse of a structure. Full bunker gear inside of a house with solid, thick black smoke to the floor, black fire and flashes. Guaranteed what's happening to you. You're dying, you're burning to death. Think about it. Is there some truth to what I just said, that firefighters would be more apt to stand across the street of a house that's full of natural gas than they would full? And I'm not trying to scare you from going in. I want you to respect black fire, if you will. I want you to understand that buildings of yesterday will give us fire behavior of tomorrow. Buildings of yesterday will give us fire behavior of tomorrow. So many times that people are misspeaking and they're teaching the wrong message, and it's all new building construction, new building construction, new building construction. I don't care if the building's 100 years old. There's a place in Montgomery, Alabama where I teach. An auditorium that was built 100 years ago, like 1907 or something. A lot like this, but it's 100 years old. And to this day, the chairs in there do not have this plush on, does not have this fabric. It's a wood. We've never been on old theaters where it's true wood. And it's pretty much about the same size. It's almost like a replica of this building right here, other than it's wooden floors and it's wood. It's phenomenal. The place is very cool. It's a place called Palacia. And it's wood. If I set a fire down here, not up there, right down here because it's vertical, it's going up, right? I set a fire down here. In 5 minutes, what's the fire here going to be compared to that one in Tallahassee? It's not the building's the same. You know, this building, it's this stuff right here that's put on. And that's something that we have to do is understand and respect the fuel packages that are in a particular building. You know, little sales pitch, but it's more about the construction. In December or January 13th through the 17th, 40-hour Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Chief Mike Turpak, who wrote the Fireground Size-Up book, 40-year veteran, New Jersey, City of New Jersey. Him and I are doing a class Monday through Friday at 5 on his second edition of Fireground Size-Up book. And in that 40-hour program, we'll cover that stuff of what I was just talking about, and we'll go over the different building constructions, like the type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, right? But the big thing that, you know, that we're going to discuss on one day is, yes, once you understand building construction, that's a big deal, but what's a bigger deal is the occupancy and the fuel package within a given building construction. The occupancy and the contents within a specific building. Because if I take a type 1, what's a type 1 building? What? Non-combustible, I'm going to make it simple for you. It's the concrete drill tower. Concrete drill tower. Non-combustible concrete. So in itself, if it's vacant, is there really a problem fire-wise? No, there's nothing in it. If it's vacant, it's all concrete. They're just simple terms. But if I move in, a building that sells empty 55-gallon metal containers, that's it. There's no liquid to go in them. And then down the street, same building construction, it's a pool cleaning store, or it's a thrift store, or a second-hand store, 2 different fuel packages in the same building construction. So when we pull up, we do not only ask ourselves, is it a type 1, type 2, type 3, but what's the business, what kind of contents are in the building? Is this the Tallahassee Auditorium with wooden seats? Or is this Idaho Falls with this fabric foam type seats? And we'll get to it, but there's a line of duty death in Atlanta, Stephen Solomon, 900 square foot, single-story duplex, gutted out, vacant, nothing in it. A mattress killed him. One mattress. One mattress killed him. Vacant, boarded up duplex, 900 square feet. A squatter was living in it and drug a mattress in the back door, so the squatter, the homeless guy, didn't have to sleep on the floor. Had a candle, fell over, lit the mattress on fire. He went out the back door. He didn't want to kill a firefighter. Snuck out the back door. Somebody calls, sees smoke coming from the cracks in a boarded up duplex, engine 16, truck 16. Pull up, see smoke pushing. Truck 16 pulls the plywood off the front door. They open the front door. Immediately, that big black smoke's rolling out. Stephen Solomon, when he went to school, they tell him not to put water on. Don't put water on smoke, right? Because he been taught penciling. You know what I mean? Like, every now and then about penciling, we don't want to use too much water, might cause some water damage, right? And he immediately goes in, makes it about 5 feet. Since it was a mattress, when the mattress was burning, what was it giving off? Unburned fuel, fire gases. As that mattress burned in that boarded up 900 square foot vacant duplex, as the fire burned, what was it consuming? Oxygen. And it was just the right timing where the mattress burned long enough in the oxygen, that one open 900 square foot duplex, that it sustained combustion long enough to burn up the mattress. It replaced the oxygen with unburned fuel gases, or let's just say natural gas, but worse than natural gas. And all it needed was what? Oxygen. They took that plywood off, door open. Stephen Solomon was told, don't put water on smoke. Wouldn't want to hit it from outside. That's not tough enough, right? He pushes in 5 feet, and smoke rapidly lifts because it was just the smoke from a mattress. When the smoke lifted, what came in at the lower level? Oxygen. Auto ignited. He stood up, ran, his helmet came off, his boot came off, his mask came off. Mayday was transmitted instantly. Squad 4 of Atlanta, phenomenal, unbelievable, elite urban firefighters, one of the fastest rescue times that I know of. I'm pretty sure it was 2 minutes and 23 seconds. They located him, removed him, put him in the ambulance, sent him to the hospital. They found him too fast. They got to him too quick. Why did they get to him too quick? Huh? Why did they get to him too quick? Anybody have the answer? They literally found him too fast. Why did they find him too fast? Huh? Say it out loud. Don't get embarrassed. I'm asking. Because he lived for 3 days. But 3 days, what happened? He died. It seems morbid what I said, but what I'm saying is even though they found him as fast as they could, inevitably what happened to him in 3 days in the burning. If they'd been 20 seconds quicker, it would not have been any different, because when they found him, guess what the fire had already done before he even found him out? It literally was a flash fire of unburned fuel gases from a mattress that lit off and burning, and a fire almost self-extinguished in a way. That one fire there should be no secret to every firefighter in the country in the last 13 years. Everybody should be taught that for recruit school. And honor him that when you're at the front door of the threshold and you're faced with thick black smoke, whether it's you, whether it's the officer, the person pumping the first due rig, or chief, somebody with a true perspective away. Because if this is the front door, and I'm right here when the door opens, can I truly evaluate and size up that smoke in comparison to the structure when I'm right here at it? The value is created at a distance. The value is back here. When I'm back here and I see that smoke roll out below the doorknob, is that when it's impressive when you see it on Facebook or social media and you're like, that's some bad shit? But see, when you're at the doorway, when you stretch it, the structure was sealed up like it is more times than it used to be. Do you expect to see smoke when you open the door since you're at a house that's on fire? So that doesn't trigger anything for you. What triggers it when the chief is out in the street or the front yard, or the driver operator, or the chief in this case, when he pulled up and he saw it, he was like, whoa. And he got on the radio to say, hey, let's hit it before we go inside, but when it already happened. He pushed in 5 feet too far. And I'm only talking about this in respect of Atlanta and him. I did 5 years in Macon before I actually went to the funeral. Because his story needs to be shared, and I think he would want to share it. Wouldn't you think he'd want to share it with everybody? That man, it wasn't impressive because he was at it. He expected to see it, but at a distance. And in Escambia County, we teach our driver operators, we teach our secondary companies, we teach all our firefighters that evaluate black fire. And it's not an exact science. It's not a guarantee given. I'm going to hit this a few times because it is one of the things that I'm positive that if we taught it today, we could just teach this to everybody in the American Fire Service. I think we would prevent dozens of line of duty deaths in the future. If you have thick, black, cotton candy, can everybody envision thick black smoke looking like cotton candy coming out a front door? If you have thick black smoke like cotton candy coming out the front door of a private dwelling below the doorknob, what should we probably do before we break the threshold to make a push inside? Bounce a little water off the ceiling. Because when we open that front door, it's not that thick black smoke just coming out. It's as it releases its pressure and it rises off the floor. What space does it create? Space for what? That oxygen to come in. So if we're going to create space for oxygen to come in, what do we want to eliminate before that oxygen sneaks in with us at the lower level? Heat. Through water equalizing that heat, removing heat before oxygen enters. It really is that simple. It ought to be a 1-hour lecture in every recruit school, just like that. Just first due attack, assign nozzle position danger, first due nozzle firefighter, a private dwelling, evaluate thick black smoke rolling out. And if it's below the doorknob, that'll be always a guarantee. Now, here's what people misinterpret. Do I mean sit at the front door for 5 minutes and just flood the house? No. I'm talking about you open the nozzle, boom, 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 off the ceiling, dropping what I call the silver bullet. So the silver bullets for what? Not Colorado. Silver bullet being a 2.5 gallon water can. A 2.5 gallon water can is what's coming out the end of your nozzle if you flow tested and you're flowing the American standard of 2.5 gallons a second. So if you're flowing the American standard of 2.5 gallons a second, That's a water can coming out your nozzle every single second. And so what I mean, the front door, we might just drop 5 silver bullets across the ceiling. Everybody, if I had 5 water cans in 5 seconds, boom, boom, boom. It's like dropping a grenade, 5 grenades, and then going in to see if anybody survived the grenade drop. So if I drop 5 of them, right, that's less than 15 gallons of water. 15 gallons of water is not a big deal, right? Across that ceiling, just to cool it below its ignition temperature. So when oxygen comes in, you've already equalized the heat. I gotta tell you now, because I'm getting excited about it, thinking about it. You know what's so cool about the fire service? Is we jump up and down about truck companies and 2.5 gallon water cans and how awesome they are, right? Who's seen a water can put out a lot of fire, like a whole set of kitchen cabinets, right? Water can's pretty impressive. How many of you ride with 750 gallon booster tanks? 500 gallon booster tanks. 750 or larger, raise your hand. Your booster tank is 750 or larger, right? A 750 gallon booster tank is secret. It's Florida Mac. It's Florida Mac. It's 300 water cans. Don't share that with anybody. So when you're driving that $500,000 fire truck around, and you pull up on a kitchen fire, and you're, oh my God, we're on scene with 2,200 square foot, 1-story ranch, we got a kitchen fire. Somebody bring me a supply line. Bring me a supply line. I need a supply line now. And you got 300 water cans in your tank. How many water cans does that kitchen fire really need? 5 or 6 of them? What you really need to say is, Inchwald Farm on a long scene, 2,200 square foot, 1-story range. Got a working fire, kitchen fire. We have fast attack off the tank. Booster backup for second dude. What does booster backup mean? Second engine company comes straight to the scene to bring me 300 more water cans. But the reality is, do I really need 300 more water cans out of that booster tank on the second rig? What do I really need from that second company? Who? The staffing, the people to use the first booster tank that I have. To properly stretch a line, to force the door, to get somebody on the nozzle, somebody as a backup, somebody at the door, get some water on fire. And just maybe, if it was a simple push into a kitchen fire, between the first 2 rigs, I might have enough to have 2 people do a primary search for any possible victims that were unaccounted for. And then remove them in a short period of time. So just think about the next time you're going to a fire, how many silver bullets you're carrying in the back of your tank. And I'm not talking about Coors beer either. I'm talking about the 2.5 gallon water can. Death on the nozzle is real. I hit earlier before a break. If I were to predict for any city or town, suburban, rural, urban, I was to predict their first fireground line of duty death. And they would say, hey, you know, and why would we want to try to predict something? Why do we do that? To prevent it. That's what predict. It's not to be morbid, it's not to be rude, it's not to want it to happen. You want to predict it in a staff meeting. You want to predict it in the training division so we can heat it off. We can provide the training to keep that from happening, right? That's what we want to do. But if I was to predict it, it would be the first line of duty death in a fire department that never had one, regardless of size, would be the firefighter assigned to the nozzle of a first arriving engine company to a private dwelling less than 2,000 square feet. Now, I'm not smart enough to come up with that. That's what the last 30 years has told me the highest number of line of duty deaths on a fireground in private dwellings was a firefighter riding the first arriving fire truck at a house less than 2,000 square feet, and most of the time they were assigned to the nozzle. And almost all of them, we study in great detail the line of duty death report, any video, pictures, radio traffic, and interviews of the people that were there. Most of the time, what do we feel like pretty confident that the nozzle firefighter that died never did before their death? Open the nozzle. I don't say that lightly. I don't say that lightly. See, when I got on the job, very, a legacy. Francis Brannigan, mayor of Brannigan Building Construction, very unbelievable, highly just just a very unique guy. I had the opportunity in the late 90s to eat dinner one night with him and his wife and talk to him. Just a remarkable guy with the building construction for the fire service. And in Brannigan's time, he said the building is the enemy. The building is the enemy. I think if Brannigan come back today, I think he would say possibly the fire is the enemy. I think that back in the day, the building was the enemy. I opened up and I told you that what firefighters just get lost, disoriented, collapse, all that. And that stuff still happens. But we're seeing more so in the last 20 years that what's causing Stephen Solomon, Oscar Armstrong, Maurice Bartholomew, Berkeley Way, San Francisco. What is it that's getting firefighters in the last 20 years is fire is burning them up. Death on the nozzle for rapidly changing fire conditions. So we need to not only understand building construction, but fire growth and how to eliminate that fire growth. And I think one of the big ways to do death on the nozzle is hit it hard, hit it fast, and back it up. What does hit it hard mean? That means hit it with water sooner than later. Hit it with more water than is required. It's understanding the difference between stream reach and nozzle reach. Stream reach and nozzle reach. Stream reach can be accomplished with only one firefighter. Two-car garage, attached two-car garage of a private dwelling fully involved. I personally think a two-car garage is a 2.5-inch attack for residential structure. A two-car garage attached, fully involved, one firefighter to stretch 50, 100, 150 feet to 2.5, get it right where they want it, call for water, pin it down, open the nozzle, and what does the work for you? The reach of the stream. Once you've knocked that two-car garage down, you abandon the 2.5. You don't even use it. You abandon it. You either extend off of it using a gusset pack. What's your gusset pack? You can go to countyfiretactics.com. Countyfiretactics.com. Is internet service good near Wi-Fi or regular? Everybody pull up their phone real quick. Go to countyfiretactics.com. Now, if you're an English major and you're worried about where semicolons and dashes and commas go, you probably want to go to countyfiretactics.com. It's like somebody writes notes and then they put the stuff on a website so around the world can read it. Most every post that's ever been done, I did from my phone before I realized I needed readers and I was in denial. And I didn't let my third grade wife proofread. She did so bad. I don't use Word. I just put it on there. So just take it for what it's worth. So if you're one of them English Nazis, you don't want to read anything on there. We're going to countyfiretactics.com, and on there, in the top right, put in, just type in Guston. You're going to see on the top right. And I'm doing this for you because when I leave, I still want you to have resources and stuff that you can read. Everybody see search at the top right? Go to search and just type in Guston Pack. G-U-S-T-I-N. G-U-S is for Bill Guston out of Miami-Dade. We named it after him. He didn't name it after himself. Probably one of the biggest legends in the fire service currently, Captain Bill Guston. Put in Guston Pack. And it'll give you the information. It'll give you a video that we made of packing it, stretching it, loading it. And it's not free to look at now, but I truly encourage all of you to read that little short thing about the Guston Pack and watch Load and Unload it. Escambia County Fire Rescue standard department procedure or whatever, standardization. All 23 stations, we have a Guston Pack on every engine company in the county, and it shall be carried on a little shelf on the officer side that's right above the discharges, where the LDH discharges. It's on the exterior of the building. It's a 100-foot inch and 3/4 that we fold using the same fold that FDNY uses for their 2.5 for standpipe. We just modified it for inch 3/4, and we put a 7/8 smooth bore on it with a break apart tip so you can extend off of it. You can put a fog nozzle on there if you want to. Just don't put one of them stupid automatics. Those things, just throw them in a trash can. Unless you're trying to use them for foam operation or something. But I'll tell you, the Guston Pack is one of the few things in my career that once we had it for literally a month, for a couple of months, I was like, how do we survive without this thing? Like, we use it all the time at fires. It literally, it's very compact. You carry it on your shoulder. And what's cool about the Guston pack is most of you, what do you have to purchase to even have one? Nothing. You just get a nozzle you already have. You take 2 sections, inch 3/4, you fold it up. And if you have the money, you can buy a Milwaukee strap. But if you can't buy a Milwaukee strap, go to the junkyard, get out some old seat belts, and have somebody sew them together and put them together with a seat belt. An awesome hose bundle that can be carried by the smallest firefighter on the shoulder to be used to extend the line for a mother-in-law suite, a house behind a house, a second or third floor garden apartment, to extend off a pre-connected line when a pre-connect comes too short. On our department, on a working fire, it's not uncommon for the third, fourth, or fifth due rig to literally show up, be coming down the street, and they'll walk up to me in the front yard, and they'll have a Guston pack, what you need, chief? And they're just dying for me to put them into operation with that Guston pack, right? It's like, you know, Ray McCormick wrote an article years ago, Green is Good, talking about show up with your own line, and the chief's liable to put you to work, even though you didn't really need a line. It's that kind of concept. So that's on there. Last thing, while you're on countyfiretactics.com, I don't want you to stay on that website right here, is if you scroll down to the very bottom, scroll all the way to the bottom, it'll say email subscription, and you'll put in your email address, hit sign me up, then go to your email junk mail. Sometimes we have to, so go to junk mail, and all you'll do is you'll acknowledge that you signed up. If you do that, anytime I post a video, an article, you instantly get an email to you, so you don't have to go looking for it. It's easy, it just comes to you. Anything that's on countyfiretactics.com, archive back, whatever it is, 8 years, you don't have to call me. You can use the pictures, the articles, you can print them. It's for you to share. Nothing's copyrighted. It's just a way for me to put stuff on there. If you top left, you click on it. On the top left, it has like different things. Everybody see on the top left where those little 3 lines are? And that'll bring out the different pages, like training videos and all that kind of stuff. And probably not this next year coming, but 2021, I'm actually setting aside in my calendar a day or 2 a month where I do nothing but just pump out new information for people like you that have sat in my classes, that you can see stuff for free, that be quality stuff where I'm like, you know, doing it. And then I want to get what's called an article of the day, where my job is to go through all the articles. There's a million things out there. Firefighter Nation, Firehouse.com, you don't know what to read. And then I'm going to post what I think is the most influential article in the last 24 hours. So enough of that. It's just a way for me to get back to you once I leave. Inside and outside water application. I'm a part of the UL Coordinated Fire Attack Panel Underwriters Laboratory. We're burning houses, apartments, and strip malls around the country to evaluate water application with coordinated ventilation, ventilate before, during, or after, and what it does. And the more I get into UL, it only reinforces what I've believed since the creation of the program Gallons Per Second. And Gallons Per Second is almost 15 years old, the actual lecture series that I do itself. And so anybody that was in my class 15 years ago knows that even before UL came out, I believed in quick water. I believe in, I don't like to call it hitting it hard from the yard. I call it hitting it so we can get inside sooner than later. So there is a time and place, and it has nothing to do with staffing. If I pull up and I got a 2-story private dwelling and the first floor is rock and roll, let's just call it fully involved. Do I got to knock it down before I push in and control the stairwell? So if I'm going to do that, I would prefer to do that with a 2.5, flowing 2 silver bullets simultaneously every second, 5 gallons a second, to where I get a quicker, faster knockdown so I can make that stairwell, make that second floor. So water application in the exterior has nothing to do with if you're scared to go inside. It has nothing to do with if you're rural or you're urban, you know, city of Atlanta, city of, you know, Seattle, LA. It has to do with we have to create survivable space so we can get in there to maintain the survivable space in other areas of the house that are remote, you know, opposite side of the fire, above the fire, that sort of thing. So inside and outside water application is critical. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm picking on automatic nozzles. Do you think that I ran and went to fires with automatic nozzles? Yes. I fought fires with automatic, so I know the difference between an automatic being over pumped where I can't manage the nozzle reaction, flowing 80, 90, maybe 100 gallons a minute, versus flowing a 7/8 under pumping a little bit, getting 150 gallons a minute at below 60 pounds nozzle reaction. You know, I used to have long hair and I played goalie, but you know what? I cut all that hair off to go to the Florida State Fire College because I didn't think they would take too kindly to me having hair all the way down to my waist operating back then. It was a different time. Understanding what's going on and what we're doing. So we all have, you know, a history where we've been, but it doesn't make it right. You know, at the end of the day, we have chapters in life. And sometimes we have to close that chapter and advance on to where we're going. You know, now I got a wife that I've been with for over 20 years and 3 kids, pictures a little older. They're 17, 15, and 13. So I have to consider, my decisions based on providing for them, being around, giving them direction, and finding balance on what I do. And as we talked about firefighting, it's not the staffing that dictates the, actual line that we're going to use. The line will dictate the staffing. And at the end of the day, when you pull up on a fire, you can't say, well, I don't have enough people to use a 2.5. If the fire needs a 2.5, you got to put a 2.5 in operation. Now, if you don't have the people to put a 2.5 in a building, then what you might have to do is use a 2.5 and use stream reach to knock it down from the exterior. But if a fire purchase price is a 2.5, and you stretch an 1.75 inches, you're not buying the fire. The fire's going to buy you, and the way it's going to buy you is through what? Total destruction of the building itself. So we have got to stop being fearful of the 2.5. Now I want to tell you, it takes the same number of people to stretch and operate a 2.5 as it does an 1.75. It takes the same number of firefighters to stretch and operate a 2.5 than an 1.75. It takes one. It takes one person to stretch and operate a 2.5. It takes one person to stretch and operate an 1.75. Because when one person stretches and operates a 2.5, they basically pin it down like this. And if they're using a low pressure high flow fall, or they're using preferably a smooth bore, and I would say a smooth bore is more preferable on a 2.5, even more so than an 1.75. I've rarely seen in my career where I want a fog nozzle on a 2.5 inch line. It's rare. Have I been to fires where an 1.75, I might want a fog nozzle after I've knocked the fire down, foam operations, car fire, attic fire? Yes. I'm still a smooth bore fan for 1.75. So I would give it to you. Like, I really don't care if you use a fog or a smooth bore 1.75. As long as you're doing an interior attack and it's on right for reach for a straight string. But when it comes to a 2.5, 99% of the time you want a smooth bore, whether it be an 1.1 inch, 1.3/16, or an 1.25 tip, because the amount of water, reach, and penetration that you'll get at low nozzle reaction. And that one firefighter can pin it down and operate it, killing a lot of fire with the power and the reach of the string. Once you purchase that fire, like I said a minute ago, you leave that there, and now you move in with an 1.75 inch. 1.75 is still the same thing. You just might be able to stand up and hold it in a stand-up position. The difference between an 1.75 and 2.5 is when you go to move an 1.75 inch, yes. It takes more people to move an 2.5 than it does an 1.75, but it's because of the water weight in the line. Basically, for easy numbers, it's 150 pounds per 50 feet of a 2.5. That counts for water weight and the hose weight. Water weight, and that's rounded up for simple numbers. 150 pounds for 50 foot of 2.5. So that 150 pounds in a stationary position, am I benefiting from that 150 pounds in a stationary position? Yes, that's a backup firefighter. That's backing up that nozzle reaction. The problem is when I start to move forward, that's when it's a problem. It's 150. It's 2 sections, it's 300. It's 3 sections, it's 450. So what we have to do is, if we're operating a 2.5, we're taking it in a building, that's where the discipline of operating a 2.5 is critical. That's where we got to say, hey, we're going to get a 2.5 in this building. Do I have enough firefighters on scene to take it as far as I need to go? And if you're going to take a 2.5 in a building, you need somebody on the nozzle. You need a backup firefighter backing them up. And if you're going to use a 2.5 in a commercial building, and I'll hit this again just because I think this is one of the top rules of engagement for commercial fire attack in relation to the first line of any company operations, is when we're going to use a 2.5 in a building, you need a supervising officer. Is that different than an 1.75 in a private dwelling? Where's the officer going to be on an 1.75 in a private dwelling? The back. That's standard. Pretty much everywhere in the country outside of maybe New York. So that's the problem is when we stretch, and we're going to take a 2.5 into a commercial building, we're going to stop and say, hey, this isn't my traditional backup as the officer. They need to be parallel with a nozzle firefighter, because most likely it's a commercial building. When they come through that doorway, that the height of the ceiling requires a thermal imager to see, because you might not feel the heat down here, but could there be a lot of heat up there? And that's where you're going to want that parallel supervising officer using a thermal imager. We're in a residential attack with 8, 9, 10-foot ceilings. That officer's going to be right behind the nozzle firefighter. And let's just be straight up. Are we relying on that nozzle firefighter to basically provide self-direction? You're just kind of like a firefighter pushing. Yeah, you're going to talk on the radio. You're going to say push. You're going to say stop. But when we start using a 2.5 in commercial build, that's where the officer really gets into a supervisor's role of getting on the radio and cadence and saying, ready, drag. Because pretend like we came in that main set of steps up there, and this door didn't exist. We couldn't come through this door, and we had to come up these steps, come around through the entrance and turn around. Is that a couple of pinch points? It's going to be more than 50 feet of hose. And then when we get there, we got to advance down, kind of like you see the movie Backdraft. Remember the fires in the auditorium in Backdraft where the stage is all burned up? And we got to get that line here. Somebody on the nozzle, somebody backing them up, a supervising officer. So that's a 3-person, listen to me, just on the 2.5, that's a 3-person nozzle team. Nozzle team. They're not even really dragging any hose. Somebody on the nozzle, somebody absorbing the 2.5-inch nozzle reaction. Not for dragging hose. They're literally just absorbing because it's not, 60-pound nozzle reaction like on a 7/8 blue bore or 150/50. It's an 1 1/8, it's an 1 3/16. So they're doing nothing but nozzle reaction. The nozzle firefighter is doing nothing but what? Painting the fire out, water mapping, and the officer's on the radio looking it up, communicating, trucks on the roof, talking to the chief out front, and they make another turn, and they're going to get on the radio and they're going to say, ready? And when they say drag, what does the drag firefighter in every single coupling, what does every firefighter in every coupling have to do simultaneously? Drag. And that's where failure of using a 2.5 comes into play, is because we don't drill on 2.5-inch attack where we have somebody saying, ready, drag, and they'll just say, I need 10 more feet. Well, that first coupling back 50 feet behind the nozzle, when that firefighter goes to drag, and at the exact same time, the next coupling back, which is only 100 feet away from the nozzle, if they're not dragging, how much weight is that firefighter, the first coupling behind the nozzle coupling dragging? At least 300 pounds. 150, that person wasn't dragging at the same time, so they don't count, so now they're dragging the next 50 feet, that's 300 pounds. Can you see why we would suck or fail in a 2.5-inch attack without proper training? But if we had trained on it and that we knew we couldn't take that line in the building unless we had a 3-person nozzle team, and somebody at a minimum at every coupling, and even at every coupling, that's 150 pounds you're dragging. That's where it's going to come down to. It's time in the training. And if you want to, don't go there now, but if you're at countyfiretechnics.com, top left, you click, it has all that stuff. I'm pretty sure it says 2.5-inch attack drill, or some of the videos. And there's a video in there that's about 5 minutes long, and it's us at a vacant Catholic school, and I'm doing the video, and it's me just going over 2.5-inch attack drill. We ran our entire fire department through taking 2-engine companies. Now, we brought out before, so we took 8 people, 8 firefighters, and we ran a drill over and over again, advancing 300 feet or 350 feet, literally into a commercial school. And what were we training on? We were training for the day that we have no option. We can't not go inside, because what? We got kids trapped in a library, kids trapped in a closet, or one school is, an interior bathroom, and they're on their cell phones. Little Johnny and Susie's calling saying, I'm in the bathroom, and when I open the door, it's lights out, and it's black smoke. And so you say, well, I would never have to do that. Okay, well, just keep thinking that, okay? We're going to prepare for the day that it might happen, and we're going to get on the radio, and we're going to say, Engine 1, Engine 2, Marriott, 1 2.5-inch primary attack on the front door. Truck 1, you're supporting Engine 1 and Engine 2 if they need any additional personnel, get at 2.5. Down the main hallway of Catholic High School, or wherever we're at as a whole. And it's going to be, we're going to have somebody in that 5th or 6th person is going to know that they're not going to get up there and play tug of war. Their job is what? As much as they'd love to be on the nozzle, they might be the 3rd coupling back, and all they do is stay right at that coupling. When they hear Engine 1 boss say, ready, what do? They grab that coupling, and they hold it tight, and what word are they waiting for? drag. It's just like a ready drag. It ain't 1, 2, 3. It's ready drag. And when you do that drill and cadence, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool to be able to see a 2.5 move into whatever it is, a commercial occupancy for teamwork. It's one just for team building, if you will. How many of you have loved this job since the day you found out about it? Raise your hand. You're ate up with it, you're into it. How many of you are like in the fools group? How many of the people you work with, they think you're a sicko and you're crazy and this shit don't matter and you're too worried about it? All right, well, if you haven't read it, there's an article for you. If you go to the top right, you just put in the Urban Legend of the New Yorker. It's an article about my earlier years growing up, trying to introduce 30-inch pro bars, trying to introduce smooth bores. Basically, as a kid, I was told, Ike, this isn't New York City. We don't do it like New York. We don't care. I was beat down, man, just completely beat down for years and years and years. And I was the one that introduced to Northwest Florida, got brought it in. A friend of mine had moved down from New York. He had a radio strap, and so I was in Pensacola, and I brought in the first radio strap. Y'all use radio straps where it holds the radio up under your coat and pull the mic out? That's new in suburban county fire departments, which you have on right there. Back in the 90s, nationwide, if you brought one of those to 9 out of 10 fire departments, they'd look at you and say, that's a Yankee strap, that's at the FDNY, that's your man first. Firefighters would literally get their brains beat in. So we have come a long ways because it's pretty common now to have that. So I just share that with you because at the end of the day, don't give up. Continue to push, continue the pressure. You can make a difference. At the end of the day, you're not going to see it. It's going to take time. It's a long thing. And what you see in that center picture is when I grew up in the Midway Fire Department, that was pretty standard equipment. I mean, everybody thought everything was about a 4-foot closet hook, or a pick-headed axe, or, you know, the 22-inch or 45-inch hooligan tool with pins in it, Metro helmet, automatic TFT nozzle, rubber boots, Metro helmet, and you had to have a mag light. That was what you used to break out the windows. Or if a car in a car wreck would go around the cones, you hit it on their hood, you know what I mean, to stop Mrs. Smith from driving over a hose. And it was against the law to use a lapel mic. You had to hold your radio, right? You had to be a one-armed firefighter, and it was on your belt. You had to have your keys. You would always hold your keys. You put your keys on the antenna. Like that was the standard way we operated in Northwest Florida back in the 80s and 90s. And there were some of us that pushed in the 90s for 30-inch pro bars, 8-pound axes over 6-pound axes, smoothbore nozzles, high flow, low pressure fog nozzles, 2.5-inch hose for high-rise packs, traditional helmets, names on the bottom of our coats, identifications on our air pack that said engine 1 and truck 2. And all the things that we pushed for them because we knew somewhere in the country a firefighter or firefighters had died because the organization didn't use those kind of things. We have paid in blood the price for a lot of things we use. Firefighters are dead today because they didn't have a radio on a sling with a mic hanging out. The portable was in their pocket with a speaker facing this way, or it was in the side pocket. Anybody willing to admit that there was a time when you went to fires and you didn't use lapel mics and the portable just was in your pocket or your side pocket? And the chief would call you and you never answered. Why? Because you never heard it, right? And it might even been you. You're the one that was stubborn. I don't need that mic. I like to hold it like this. And finally one day you got that and you're like, shit, where's this been my whole career? This is the most easiest way to communicate is to have that elephant trunk hanging out. So just because you've been doing it one way does not make it right. It's okay to let your guard down and be open to new ideas and new ways. And it's not New York. It's Seattle to LA to Miami to Maine to Chicago. Just it makes sense. And on the right is my department today. Every engine company in the county, including our rural farmland, we run standpipe hose and high-rise packs. Why? It goes on a fourth alarm that can be pulled up on a high-rise. If they get relocated, if we have a third alarm in one part of the county, those companies could get moved up or relocated. What do we want them to have if they're first due to a hospital or a high-rise office building or a high-rise condo? We want them to have that because we're a county fire department. We run nothing but standard 30-inch pro bars, 8-pound axes, 4-foot, 6-foot, and 8-foot roof hooks. We run 7/8 smoothbore standard on every Pre-Connect 1, 150 at 50 chief, Pre-Connect 2. Our rear hose bed is standard countywide, 1,000 feet of 5-inch, 500 feet of 3-inch, 500 feet of 2.5. You basically run rear bulk hose beds, whether it's down on the high-rise district on Pensacola Beach or we're in the farmlands in the north end. We found that county hose load works for us from the most rural areas to the most urban areas, and we did it based on standardization from the Oscar Armstrong report out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Who here's read the Oscar Armstrong? Have you read the Oscar Armstrong report? Very awesome on what they did in honoring him to standardize one of the most historic, oldest paid fire departments in the country. Took a line of duty down, but they wanted to standardize their hose loads. And even if you're a small department, you should be trying to work with your surrounding departments to standardize the hose loads, and how you operate. So when a mutual aid company shows up and they're expected to stretch a second, third, or fourth line off of one of your rigs, they already know how to do it. Whether it's a Minuteman, a triple layer load, a static load, they understand your nozzles and your operation of what you're doing. So November 25th, 2000 was the day that changed my fire service career and changed my life forever. If you're writing notes, the title of this next little talk I'm going to do is The 10 Months I Can Never Get Back. The 10 months that I can never get back. Maurice Bartholomew ate up with the job. Beautiful smile, man. Had the perfect teeth. Never had braces. Just had that beautiful smile. He was going to Pensacola State College, almost finishing up his 2-year fire science degree, taking any and every fire class he could. And he was assigned to the west side on Engine 4. And he was assigned to an older captain, had an older driver. They'd been together a long time. They were buddies. They're not bad guys. They're good guys. But they were older. And Maurice just wasn't the right fit for them. Younger, gung-ho, into it. When he came to work, he wanted to drill. He wanted to train. And eventually, after being told no, 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 and the captain and the driver were more interested in drinking coffee and, sitting in a lazy boy, he stopped asking, didn't he? And like a real long story short, Maurice was just was enjoyable to be around. Always smiling, always happy, wanted to be into the job. And 10 months before November 25th, 2000, I was working downtown, 2-story station. It's the station I started at. When I started there, I had 2 engines, a ladder, and rescue 17 people on duty. 14 beds on the second floor. 7 beds, 2 brass poles, and 3 private rooms for the chief and the senior captains. So the firehouse, any kid that read the books growing up wanted to work at it. But I went to my battalion chief, who was one of my mentors, and I said, hey, you think we can get Maurice down here to Spring Street? Get him on the back Engine 5. So Chief Baker made it happen. We got Maurice 10 months before November 25th. He got Maurice moved from Engine 4 on the west side to fireman back Engine 5. Got him assigned in back Engine 5. At that time, November 25th, 2000, the county was just going to pay this Cambia County. I was being recruited to go, but I was just kind of working part-time with it, but I wouldn't go. And I'd given up. It's like some of you that are in the Fools group who love the fire department, you've been pushing for smooth bores for 10 years, 5 years, pushing for 30-inch pro bars, pushing for proactive training, pushing for sending people to FDIC and conferences, seminars, and you kept getting told no, 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 no. Eventually you get told no enough, what do? You quit doing it, you give up. Right when I got Maurice relocated to my station, because I asked Chief Baker to get him moved, I'd given up. I'd given up on changing the culture, on changing the fire department, and my mind was starting to seek the fact that I was going to go to Escambia County, where I was being recruited by the fire chief and the deputy chief, and they did an awesome job recruiting me. They told me they'd give me a vehicle and I could run any and every fire in the entire 664 square miles, and I could take it home. You're ate up the job, somebody offers you a car and says you can self-dispatch me, car is a pretty good deal. And I'd given up on Pensacola. And so 10 months before, when he got relocated to Spring Street, he was working there, we had a good time. And when my lifelong buddy that we shared bunk beds at the fire college was off, when he was off, Maurice would step up and drive the rescue. And The night before he died, we were on duty. It was day before Thanksgiving. He drove for me because my driver, my buddy, was off. He drove for me, I'll never forget. We went to 257 North Baylor Street, one block over, one block up. It's the last call I ever ran with him. I talked about where you park the rescues, you don't block for the engine, you don't block for the ladder truck. Never forget it. The last call I ran with him. Next morning, he got called for overtime. It skipped over the last shift, so they had to come back and get him. He got picked up for overtime. When I see you, buddy, I'll see you next watch. He goes from driving rescue to the next rig next to it was engine 5 as a fireman. At night I'm home, I get a call as a working fire. It was not uncommon for me to buff fires in my own city where I'd go there and take pictures or whatever. I buff fires all over the country. I get to the fire, engine 5 was first due, ISO 1. Department, 17 firefighters on scene in less than 7 minutes. One story, 1,200 square foot wood frame, poured foundation, hydrant in the front yard. But at the time in the late 90s, there was a big push for positive pressure attack. We put a fan in the front door as you're making the attack. In our department at the time, it was a big issue that if you did a search, you didn't do a truck search, you didn't do VES. That was a New York City tactic. That if you went in for a search, you had a hose line, you drug the hose line, because that provided you what? Safety, even though we didn't realize it. I show up on scene of this house right here. This is the picture the day after. I took this picture the day after when I was standing guard. You know, so we had to protect the scene for a few days, the investigation. And I stood out and I looked at this house and I thought, the one-room fire. The one-room fire on the ride was self-vent on the Charlie Delta corner. Now at the time, everybody was money on a quarterback and saying, what were you doing inside? What were you doing anytime you see a line of duty death? Instead of getting the facts, we just want to start saying, well, they shouldn't have been in there. We should have been in there. It's reported in traffic. It's a one-story house, self-vented. The problem was not him being in there. The problem is our culture. The problem is I gave up. And the problem is I didn't make the most of it in 10 months. I can't go back 10 months before November 25th, 2000. And instead of giving up and sitting in a lazy boy and just going through my day, I can't go back and talk about Andy Fredericks. I can't go back and talk about thick black cotton candy coming out the front door below the doorknob, oxygen coming in. I can't go back and tell him no matter what our culture is, Maurice, if you're on the nozzle either somebody's trap, your job is to seek and destroy the fire. Get water on the fire. Once you put water on the fire, you knock it down, you can search all day long. Maurice, when you're in there and you got that nozzle in your hose line, if you're going to conduct the search and you're going to leave the nozzle, you first and foremost need to remember that if you're going to the front door without a hose line, you need to understand oriented search. You have to stay oriented. And on and on and on. So I can't go back to those 10 months to make the most of them. Are you a boss? Sometimes. Are you over newer firefighters when they come in? Huh? You station captain? So when a new firefighter comes in, so you don't be me. I can't go back 10 months. When you get somebody new assigned to you, you go over your expectations. It's okay to put water on the smoke. And if we force the door and there's thick smoke below the knob, you can open it up and put it on there. And you can go over, hey, we're pushing in, it's thick, hot, and black. We don't want anybody inside or outside breaking windows until we cool that environment. Because if we take a window today, before we cool the environment, what can taking one window do today that it didn't do 30 years ago? Cause a flashover. So I leave with you a lesson that I'll be living, a lesson that I'll pay the price for till the day I'm done. It's 10 months, I'll never get back. So when somebody sees me doing a doc video on Facebook and I seem angry, or you listen to me talk about water on fire and automatic nozzles, remember that most of it comes from the 10 months that I didn't do a fucking thing. Excuse my French, it's the only time I'll use the F word today. Because I can't get that back. I can't go back to those 10 months. I can't go back. At the end of the day, I live for the rest of my life knowing that a guy died in a 1,200 square foot house fire with a nozzle in his hand, and if all he did was open it and float for 30 seconds, you wouldn't even know about this fire. We wouldn't even be talking about it. There'd be no discussion. See, you don't know until you know. And you could be on this job for 27 years, 6 months, and 1 day, and it could be the next day it could be the worst fire of your career. We don't know. And we have to learn from it. Oak came up here and was talking to me about the Yarnell fire, Prescott firefighters. As soon as he started talking to me, man, I got the image of him standing on top of that ridge looking down there at that fire. One of the last images taken of them, all happy, go-lucky under that tree. You know what I'm talking about? The picture of them. See, those pictures are awesome. But when he told me about it, I saw them two pictures, and instantly I was over-flooded as we were talking. It was hard for me to even focus listening to you, because in my mind I read the report and I got overtaken by frustration of the things and the predictable knowledge they had before they went down there, and the radio problems and the radio communications. Because there's so many things that we do and don't do that are unacceptable based on complacency and a failure to dive a little deeper into what we do and the possibilities of their calls. So, as I talk today and tomorrow, I pray and I hope. I grew up in a church that make it right and wrong. It's a free country, so I'm allowed to have my beliefs too. Everybody nowadays can have any belief they want, other than it's against the law to be a Christian. It almost seems like that now and then. You laugh because it's the truth. But I'm a Christian. I grew up in the church, and for me, I pray that none of y'all ever have to have your November 25th, 2000. I hope none of you have to have a November 25th, 2000. I hope that you can study and read line of duty deaths, close calls, and you can value them without them being too close and personal. Can you understand what that means? That you value them at a distance. That when you hear about two firefighters in San Francisco getting killed at a house on a hill on Berkeley Way, that you can read the Berkeley Way report and you can value what they were up against or not up against. That they got dispatched to a sparking outlet, and while responding, they said the curtains are on fire. And then they're responding, it's just the curtain fire. And then they get there, there's light smoke showing from what looks to be a 2 or 3 story house in the front, but it's 4-story in the rear. And they push through the front door because 99% of the time was the best place to take an attack on a private door in the front door, but not every time. They go through the front door, and then they realize, it's down 1 floor below, it's a house on a hill. They go down the stairs, but the front door is like at the top of the chimney. We open the chimney, we open the flue, and then we took the window, and so now we have a massive rush of air and it flashed over and it killed both of them. And the two of them, see why I timed myself, man? It's already been an hour. Oh, come on. They were overwhelmed by an extreme flashover, and I'll show you pictures of it today or tomorrow. In an instant second, and I'm not disrespecting them. Chief Dave Franklin, Deputy Chief San Francisco Fire Department, wrote a report. I challenge you to go, not now, but tonight or tomorrow, go to YouTube and put in San Francisco LODD. It's about an 11-minute long audio dispatch. Listen to the audio. Listen to the audio. Then Google the San Francisco line of duty death report on Berkeley Way. Print that report and read it. Not the nice report. The best report is when a fire department truly dives deep and studies a fire that was theirs, and they put everything on the table. Who here is a union IFF dues paying member? Raise your hand. All right, I have been for 27 years. I'm proud to be an IFF. I'm also a volunteer at heart. Grew up in a volunteer fire department. If I lived in a place where it was volunteer and I had the time, I'd do it tomorrow. So I'm not against volunteers, but I'm proud to be an IFF member. And what it does for me if something happens to me and my rights as a whole. But we're our worst enemy sometimes. Man, I'm just telling the truth. San Francisco Fire Department, their contract says they ride with 4 people on every single rig. It's in their IFF contract. The first 2 arriving engine companies on Berkeley Way, one of them had 3, the second one had 3. One of them, instead of the whole rig going out of service, they sent the individual to go get their fit test. You know your annual fit test on your mask? The other was at the grocery store buying groceries. Now, on that rig, for IFF members, they fight for their contract. You always have to have 4 until it's okay. I don't want to be inconvenienced to go to the grocery store, right? You think that happens all across the country? Where a station captain got up. His fights and I say him. What we see, we got to have 4 in the rig, we have to have 3 in the rig, or whatever it is. But then the day at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're doing your own personal business, and to get groceries, you'd all have to get on the rig to go down to the grocery store. And that's the second you decide, the chief ain't going to come by. He's not going to know. Just take the spare fire car, take your personal vehicle, go down to the grocery store, get groceries so we don't all have to be inconvenienced. How often do you think that happens across the country? Every single day. We call that hypocrisy, being a hypocrite, right? You don't never know when that one extra person, and for you it might be you're usually riding with 3, but you decide I'm just going to ride with 2 today, or whatever the case. And they're not going to, it's in honor of them, because I truly think that if the first 2 rigs showed up with 4 and 4, the outcome could have been different based on how fast they stretched the line, the staffing they had. I think that if the chief that got there would have been first on scene, based on radio traffic and just my thoughts about listening to that radio traffic at least 50 times, I think he'd have said, you know what, this isn't a fire going through the front door. We're going to take it down the B side. We're going to come in this fire at ground level, meaning the level where the fire ignited, and now we're coming in where from underneath, like hitting the chimney, instead of getting on the roof and trying to climb through the chimney, which is like going down a set of stairs and having a flash on. Some of their last radio transmissions was it's hot black and we can't find the fire. Hot black and we can't find the fire. If you're a chief officer and you hear that people inside, the next words ought to be you're in the fire. Open up the nozzle and flow water. And those have been some of the last radio transmissions over the last 20 years. Firefighters saying it's hot black and we can't find the fire because they're in the fire. And sometimes it's so equalized heat level wise your thermometer whites out and you can't even see it, so now it's useless. And I want to tell you this before we take another break. We have got to wake up and acknowledge that we are inadequate. We are inadequate on a first due attack of evaluating heat conditions. Right now, the fire truck's sitting out in the street. There was 3 engine companies on a ladder. The fire truck's sitting out there, not running. What's the temperature of the bunker gear out there right now? What's the temperature of the bunker gear? 33 degrees? So you instantly run out there, you put on your bunker gear, you jump in the rig, you drive a mile down the street. Idaho Falls has a 2-story private dwelling with a good rocking fire. Your bunker gear might make 36 degrees by the time you get there. You get off and it drops back down to 34 because it's cold outside. When you go through the front door and it's hot, 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 do you feel the heat instantly? It takes a while. It takes 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, because your gear has to go from 33 degrees. As it absorbs the energy and it's getting saturated, you're miscalculating. And so by the time that you realize it's hot, it's a little too late. And we, the fire service, are not doing a very good job teaching firefighters saturation rates. And understanding that when you break the threshold and your gear's 33 degrees and it flashed over right then, I'm going to make up a number. Your chance of survival is 10 seconds. But in 5 minutes of you being in there, in that superheated environment, whatever it is, 200 degrees, 300 degrees, 400, and your heat's heating up, and then you're in 6 minutes, and you make it to the second floor and it flashes, your time of survival is 2 seconds. It's like the fire going up the mountain and how fast it grows. It's like the difference between flash over room 1 and flash over room 2. Are you with me on that? So we are unable to calculate the seconds and the time. We're unable to calculate when the heat, fuel, and oxygen is all going to come together. That's why we put more water than less water. That's why we put water up the ceiling. We're unable to evaluate that saturation rate. And the other thing is, and I challenge you, the ones that are into reading, is if you go to the top right, another article you can search, top right is titled Death on the Nozzle. So you go to the top right on my website, put in Death on the Nozzle. It's going to pull up an article, and within that post is my good friend Kevin Story out of Houston wrote an article called Our Next Generation of Line of Duty Deaths. Our Next Generation of Line of Duty Deaths. So just put in Death on the Nozzle. And the article is about our recruit schools, our firefighter 1 and 2 schools, our minimum standard schools, our state certification schools, and then when we send them to their live burn, it's in a type 1 or type 2 non-combustible or limited combustible building with a couple of pallets of hay. We get the whole building hot as an oven, even though it can't flash over because there's no fuel packet. It's like an oven, right? You turn on an oven, you crank it up to 550, it doesn't flash over, it just gets hot. That's the burn building. So firefighters go in there and their gear's saturated all day from training, so they feel all this heat, so their brain tells them, well, that's normal, it's hot. So they do these live burns where they go in and they squirt about 2 gallons of water, put out 2 pallets in a set of hay, and then 3 years later, they're going to their first real rocking fire at 2 o'clock in the morning in Idaho Falls, where they pull up and it's not a type 1 or a type 2, it's a type 5, wood frame building with couches, chairs, and mattresses. And when they get in there and it's hot, it's not near as hot as that live burn area. It's just like, it's not very hot. And they just got in their gear that was sitting in the truck bay that's maybe 45 or 50 degrees, whatever your heaters are set on, versus wearing their gear all day training. And can you see how they can miscalculate the heat between the burn at 2 o'clock in the morning and the one at the drill tower? And so they get in there and they're crawling over that smoke looking for a fire. And when it gets to what they think is hot, is right when it flashes over because there's couches, chairs, and everything, and they're burned up. And the scariest part is we still have rookie schools and academies teaching penciling. We still have rookie schools and academies where the instructors are so damn lazy that they have to check everybody off, that when they get in there, they see the 2 pallets say, hey, how long do they let them put water on it? They're one of the first students. Just a second. They don't want to put it out because they're so lazy they can rebuild another fire. Right? We want to be able to get 20, you're laughing, because we want to get 20 people in there to say, they put water on a fire. We're killing our firefighters through our training. We're killing our firefighters through our training. If we really want to do a real recruit school in a Type 1 or Type 2 building, we would push the envelope on how much fuel packages we could have. And when Johnny or Susie comes in and on the first burn as the nozzle firefighter, as soon as they get in there and it's hot, as soon as they break the threshold, it's hot, what would the instructor say in the fire academy? Open the nozzle, bounce the water off the seal, shut it down. Push in, open the nozzle, bounce it off the seal. And teaching them muscle memory of cooling the environment, cooling the solid fuels that are preheated. And then when they make the corner, and in the corner is the TP of pallets and hay. Can everybody see that? What would we allow Johnny or Susie to do in a fire academy right then when they see that fire? Reach out and touch it with a shitload of water. We would knock it down, fully extinguish it. We would stop, regroup, we'd drag all the pallets and burn up hay, and we would rebuild an entire new fire, would we not? If we truly wanted to invest in tomorrow's firefighters to prepare them with the skills, knowledge, and ability to fight a fire at 2 o'clock in the morning in Idaho Falls, Arkansas. Is there any truth to what I just shared? Guaranteed. And I'll tell you, when people read Kevin Story's article on Next Generation Will How to Do This, you know what really pisses off the most? The fire academy instructor that lives and does that for a side job to make extra money. And then about a week or a month later, the truth sets in and they're set free. They're like, that's reality. And then they go to the junior college boss or the chief or whatever, say, to the boss, hey, chief, in the next live burn, we need 2 or 4 people that are nothing but stokers. You know what I mean? All I need them for, they don't even have to be certified. I need them, when we do a burn, they drag the pallets and burn up pallets and hay out, and we teach them how to stand up the pallets per an FDA, 1403 live burn rules, and they just stand by. And now we have enough people who truly fund those burns to where they're not just a check in a box live burn, they're a training burn for future success on a fire ground. Any questions? All right, let's take a break, stretch, do whatever, come back, and then we'll take it for lunch. Chief, is there a certain time on lunch? Just what time will it be here? We'll take lunch at 5, not 12 o'clock.